MonicaMemo.com is the website, and on Twitter at Monica Crowley. And I want to get right to it because joining me on the line for the first time, actually, on the Monica Crowley Show, I'm so excited to have her here, Congresswoman Nan Hayworth. She is a Republican of New York. She represents New York's 19th district, which includes West Point and also parts of Poughkeepsie. She is also a medical doctor, which is really impressive. And she joins me now. Congresswoman, welcome.
Thank you. It's a delight to be with you, Monica. Real pleasure.
Well, I'm so happy to have you here. First time on the show, and I do hope you'll come back. We do have a lot to cover with you today, and I do want to start with Obamacare/Obama tax, because I think all of us should be referring to Obamacare as Obama tax from here on out, given the Supreme Court decision calling the mandate, in fact, a tax. So since you are a doctor, I want to get your view on this from a couple of different angles. First of all, the House, and you do serve in the House just voted once again to repeal it. You voted to repeal it. And then, of course, Harry Reid killed the repeal in the Senate. So talk to us a little bit about the next step toward killing this monstrosity. Do we have to wait until November 6th?
Monica, realistically, I do feel strongly that it will require, and that was the Chief Justice did allow us this stark reality to set in, that we will need House, Senate, and White House aligned if we will have a clean repeal and replacement. And for the sake of the American people, we do need that to happen. This is, the intentions are good. Every American should absolutely have access to good health care, affordable, portable health insurance. This law is wrong. It is a dead weight on our economy, $2 trillion plus of Washington-generated cost when we cannot afford the debt we have now. It is an impediment to hiring now. It's a bad law.
Also, I think, when you talk about $2 trillion, pretty much every time we hear from the CBO and they come out with a new estimate, sometimes they'll say, oh, well, it might save a little money over here, but oh my God, it's going to cost another $4 trillion that we didn't anticipate over here.
Absolutely.
And it just seems that all these estimates are really lowball when you talk about the health care of, 325 million people?
Well, precisely. Monica, history has shown us over and over again, and in fact, the founders and framers were so wise to limit the role of federal government because Washington cannot control the minutiae of our lives. And when we talk about health care, this is a matter for patients and doctors and providers and our local institutions to manage, and it is impossible to manage these things effectively from Washington. There is simply too much loss involved to try to translate what the bureaucracies think we should do into action, and of course what the bureaucracies think we should do is often counter to common sense on the ground in our communities.
Well, Dr. Hayworth, Congresswoman Hayworth, what if full repeal is in fact off the table until the election and we get a change, hopefully, God willing, in the presidency come that time? What are you guys in the House doing right now to try to cripple Obamacare? What are you doing in terms of defunding it? What are you doing in terms of dealing with the bureaucracies?
Well, what we're going to continue doing, Monica, is what we have done. We have had, it is true, we have had 33 votes on this law in the House because the will of the American people, that was not a symbolic vote for full repeal. That was the will of the American people. And on the ground in my district, that's what I hear in the Hudson Valley all the time, the people I represent. But what we have done with the other 31 votes is to rescind various slush fund components. We did take away one of the more onerous burdens on our small businesses, especially, which was going to require them to file for the IRS a whole duplicate set of 1099 forms for all the vendors they dealt with, above $600 worth of business a year. I mean, that was just a travesty. And that was made law. House, Senate, and White House got together on that. And we will continue with every opportunity we have, Monica, to try to defund, redeploy those funds elsewhere, return them to the American people whenever we can. But it's piecemeal. We need to have an entire relief from this bad law, and we will keep working steadily toward the election to do that.
A handful of Democrats voted with you on repeal. I think it was 7. I could be wrong on that number, but I think it was 7 Democrats voted with you guys to repeal Obamacare.
Yes,
were you surprised or not by how few joined you?
No, not necessarily, Monica, because in the 2010 election, a lot of the Democrats who were considered to be blue dogs were replaced by Republican members, and it remains. This is one of those laws that certainly the Democratic side of the House has been very heavily invested in it. But I'm grateful for the colleagues who came with us. We try whenever we can to bring our Democratic colleagues into the mix because we're trying to achieve victories for the American people, not along party lines, but for the sake of everyone we serve. And this law is bad for everyone. Well-intentioned, but bad for everyone. We have to do better, and we can. There are lots of great ideas that in the House Doctors Caucus we're putting together. We happen all to be Republicans. One Democratic colleague is a physician in the House, but chooses not to join us. And we are eager to get those ideas into place as fast as possible, but we have to have repeal first.
Well, Chief Justice John Roberts on the Supreme Court essentially said to the American people, if you want Obamacare dead, you're going to have to kill it yourselves.
That's
and
right.
So we will, through our elected representatives like you, right?
Yes, ma'am. That is the goal for the right reasons, and we will with open minds and with hearts ready to the task and sympathetic to the goals that folks want to see achieved. We will do what's best for the folks we serve.
We're talking to Congresswoman and medical doctor Nan Hayworth, Republican of New York, New York's 19th district. All right, let's turn, if we could, Congresswoman, to what's being called the fiscal cliff,
yes,
toward which we are all hurtling here at breakneck speed. Tell us what the fiscal cliff is come January 1st and what all of us are facing unless Congress acts.
Well, Monica, certainly to me the most urgently alarming piece of the fiscal cliff, the so-called fiscal cliff, is the most massive tax increase in American history that is due to befall us as of January 1st, 2013, if we don't act to forestall it. Tax reform is widely accepted, and across both sides of the aisle, we've heard calls for various forms of reform. It would be the best way we could actually accelerate growth in this country. In the meantime, since that obviously is going to take a remarkable effort to accomplish, we have great minds already working on that task, we should, and we are going to vote in the House to do just that. We absolutely should assure the American public that they will not experience that massive tax increase. That 2001 and 2003 structure needs to remain in place for everyone pending full tax reform.
So when we talk about Tax-mageddon, we are talking about big tax increases in the income tax rates across the board, unless Congress acts, plus 28 new taxes for Obamacare / Obama tax, right? And also, I think the death tax goes up. And are we talking about maybe capital gains and dividends taxes going up?
Yes.
I mean, this is all enough to kill off this economy for good, right?
Oh, yes, Monica, it is huge. And our economy has reached stall speed, as various observers have said. We are growing at less than 1.5% per year in GDP. To recover from the shock that the economy started to experience in 2008 and really continues to suffer from today, we would need growth rates well over 3%. And people are recognizing that. That's why you see so many young people shifting away from the coalition that the president had in 2008. They don't have jobs. In the Hudson Valley, these folks don't have jobs, and they're still living with their families when they're upwards of 30 years old. And that is not opportunity. That's not the American way of life. It's not the American dream. We can do much better.
Well, absolutely right, and we have to, or we're going to lose this country for good. There are some Democrats, and I know you've heard this, like Washington Senator Patty Murray, who have said that they are willing to take the country off the cliff in order to score some political points here about raising the tax rate on the top marginal bracket. I mean, this is unbelievable. I think the American people are so tired of being used as pawns, especially by the Democrats, as their own personal economic situations and the fiscal state of the nation hang in the balance. I mean, you must hear this every day.
Oh, Monica, there is this obstinate determination. And when the president said, you didn't build it, and he didn't mean you didn't build the infrastructure. He meant you didn't build your business. That was chilling for two reasons. One is obviously, why should we bother to have initiative if society's going to do everything for us, number one. But more chillingly than that, what the president was telling us is, you know what? You don't own your success. You can have it taken away from you by the state. There is no such thing as a government multiplier. We need government to do various things, but we have to accept that there is a net cost to that. Only dollars in the hands of our citizens pursuing enterprise actually multiply and provide additional opportunity and growth for people in our communities. And I talk with men and women in small business all the time who tell me really what they need is for Washington to get out of their way and get off their backs. Regulatory relief, tax relief, and they are ready to go. It's heartbreaking, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm determined to relieve those burdens, and we are in the House majority. We're going to do all we can as fast as we can.
Congresswoman, we are all counting on you guys to do the right thing. As tough as it may be politically sometimes, we're all counting on you in order to save the country, because we're really at a pivotal moment here. So I thank you for your time. Congresswoman Nan Hayworth, Republican of New York's 19th District. Great to talk to you, because we're really at a pivotal moment here. So I thank you for your time. Congresswoman Nan Hayworth, Republican of New York's 19th District. Great to talk to you.
And to you, Monica, thanks for your voice. It's very important.
God bless you. I'm Monica Crowley, back in a flash.
It's Monica Crowley.